What is up, YouTube? It is Aaron here with On the Bubble Podcast. We have the usual cast back. We've got Logan and Rahan. How are you doing today, boys?
Doing well.
Okay.
All right.
I
All right,
went
so
to
it
local town.
is Labor Day this weekend. We just finished up watching the World Championships, both Master Duel, TCG. Didn't follow Rush Duel. I saw Duel Links. My friend's brother, Phil Thomas, won. Congratulations to him, German gentleman. Today we're going to be going over Master Duel and TCG. We're just going to do a kind of a quick overview, recap, shout out everyone that performed well and topped. And then we're going to get into the new Megatins that are releasing later this week. And I think that's it. We'll have like a discussion over some of the TCG exclusives, and then a little bit towards the end of like how the product is kind of shaping up moving forward. I think this is something Logan wanted to, hash out, and Rahan and I have some opinions on, so we'll see how it goes once we get to that point. So, we've got Master Duel real quick. We're just gonna kind of just briefly overview Top Cut, shout out the guys that did it, and then get some thoughts from everyone that watched it. So the winner was Team Ragnarok, which was Antonio Papa, who you may know online as Nesh, who's a dueling book grinder. Herman Hansen, who is a Mist, and then Luca Forian, who very good player. He doesn't grind dueling book as much, but just very good online Master Duel team. They've won like effectively every Duelist Cup, or like the 33 Cup over in Europe, from what I've seen. They play just like the pretty chalk lineup of like Malice, Mermail, Ryziel, Memento, and then Snake Eye was like the anti-Malice tech that Nesh brought, and then Ritual Beast is Herman's pet deck. He's played that for, I don't know, 7 years at this point, probably since the release. Runner-up from North America was Chiba Corp, which was Enzo Fialos, Joey Chow, and Pack, all just fantastic TCG duelists turn Master Duel. Their finals was fantastic. If you haven't watched it, I would recommend. It was 3-3 into the final set, and it's a very interesting maxi challenge in the final game. So I think it was really hype from the broadcast perspective. I think it was really enjoyable to view. And then the top 4 teams, real quick, were Botos and Palagalera, all pretty known TCG duelists, specifically Christian Thomas, Gabe Nets, not Falagalera, Palace Silva, all just like top of the line TCG duelists that you kind of expect to see these great things from, and they transferred over to Master Duel pretty efficiently. So, did y'all catch this stream? If so, like, what were some of the highlights and anything that you saw from Top Cut or anything in Swiss?
I think it was really, really cool, like how stacked Master Duel was. Like one of the things that's been really cool for the past couple of years is how grown like Master Duel has become for the Worlds category. You have people from like all across the world, like people that I saw like over the past couple of years just dominating the TCG scene. Like you have Herman, you have Pac, you have like Nets, Paulo, Jesse, Ryan, like people that I thought were like the go to the game, just transitioning over to Master Duel, and now that entire circuit has just become so competitive, and I think that was really cool to see. So I know a lot of people follow Master Duel because it's easier to watch, and they make a spectacle out of it. But I think a lot of the players and the names and like people like saying, "Oh, Pac versus Nesh in the finals," Joey versus Nets, things like that. I think also draw a really big crowd.
Yeah, for the Master Duel portion of Worlds, it felt like it kind of had like that big game feel to it. All the big name players and stuff. The actual gameplay itself was like I think the players played well, but I just think like the format was not ideal to showcase. There was like a lot of FTK decks and like pseudo gimmicky decks. There's like Gimmick Puppet, the Arcana Force deck, obviously like Ritual Beast, Tempai, stuff like that. So I don't think the format was the absolute best to showcase, but I think like the big name players and like just the team format and how you have to deck build and have multiple decks is like a really cool aspect of
Mhm.
Master Duel Worlds in general.
Yeah, I agree. I think the shared card pool, like initially, I was like, I'm not sure how it plays out, but I think from a viewer's perspective, like the opportunity to be shown like your favorite decks, like we brought up, like you saw Arcana Force, which is a deck you will literally never see in TCG ever in your lifetime, show up and have like some kind of niche use in a shared card, really niche format, which I think is really cool. Obviously, like you said, like Malice was definitely just like far and away the best deck. So like every deck or every team like had anti Malice counters in it to some extent. Like all the Ryzo decks made Lancia for the most part. Other decks just like had like a specific anti Malice deck to some extent. Like the Snake Eye, there were like voice meaning Iron Wall. Like a lot of different things
Like
were brought up. Sorry.
I was gonna say, Pax Memento deck was main decking 3 Lancia, 3 Meows, and 3 Chaos Hunter.
That's
And then
insane.
like some of the gimmicky FTK decks, like the Arcana Force deck was 0 non-engine. I think the Gimmick Puppet deck was 0 non-engine. Like
Mm-hmm.
I think it was like just Maxi or maybe not even Maxi.
Yeah, I agree that the format was probably not like ideal. But like I think the one thing that they've done really well is like the storylines. They haven't done too well in terms of like pushing individuals, but like if you follow competitive Yu-Gi-Oh, you know a lot of these names. Like you know Herman Hansen if you're from Europe, you know Jesse Cotton and Ryan. You obviously like from their successes in the TCG, and then obviously like from the World Championship one last year. I will say like those are a lot of these people are my friends, so it's fantastic to like see them succeed. It's crazy to like not see Team Seven or Snipe Hunters make it in the top four. I think it's like kind of cool to like see like they had like their battle in the finals for back-to-back years, and now the rest of the world kind of caught up, and we're like, all right, now are they gonna come back next year, and are they gonna now we got more storylines to come back? Like, are Jesse and Ryan gonna team together again along with Ray, and like, are they gonna if so qualify, and are they gonna make top cut again? Like, I think they've done a lot better in terms of like pushing that storyline. I think TCG Worlds leaves a little bit to be desired in that discussion. Like a lot of the names are like pretty new year over year just because of how difficult it is to qualify through the WCQ format. Um, so like you don't see someone like Jesse qualify through the WCQ as often. Like that's what the point playoff is for. I think that's a good addition to the game. So you like more consistently get like those quality players and like those big names. Obviously not to take away from anything that anyone who qualifies through the WCQ, but it's really nice to like have like those consistent appearances of people who like you see perform well throughout the year, and like if they're not going to do some kind of auto qualify system, then I think that's the second best thing. Where like the point playoff, whatever you want to say about it, I think will usually reward quality people. Like both Ruben and Julian and Polly all qualified through the point playoff, and they all won worlds through that. So I think that's
Yeah,
sorry.
sorry, I was just I think that's really spot on. I think like the issue is like over the past couple of years, like Worlds has always just been very volatile in terms of like who's qualifying, like you said. So I think when you have like a more tried and true method of making sure like okay, who's going through, are they, you know, providing an accurate representation of what the format should be and what their skill level should be, I think that's almost just better. Like something that I really like that Pokemon does is Pokemon almost does almost like the point system, right?
Mm.
Where you have to accumulate a certain number of points, and only players that accumulate that number of points can actually go through and go to Worlds. So I thought like something like that is actually like really cool.
Yeah, for those who are unaware of that system, it's like not so like you qualify, you can have as many qualifiers, it may be capped, it may be reach X number of points or be like in the top 100 of your region, but their Worlds tournament is substantially bigger than this one. This one was, I think, 27. Um, so from there, I don't know exactly how big Pokemon World is. If I had to guess, like a few hundred, 400. So it's definitely a different format in terms of the feel, but I think something like that would be really cool to experience, just like the top 100 people from North America, top 100 from Asia, because that's something that I think we're going to try and facilitate a conversation on later that me and Rahan have discussed, like the TCG versus OCG thing. But like that's something that currently is really Western favored is the representation. Like there's 20 people between North America, Europe, Central America, South America, and if you count Oceanics, which probably most people would, just because obviously English speaking. And then the OCG is only seven between for Japan, Korea, China, and then like Singapore. I think there may be a Thailand. I think there's eight, so maybe at most eight. Um, so like that discrepancy in terms of representation is definitely a contribution as to when you look at this top guy that we're about to like take a glance over. Only one Eastern representative made it, and I think that's a really big reason as to why. Like when it's 7 versus 20, the translation in the top cut is actually like not as big as you would think. It's like I think maybe slightly overrepresented in the West, but like when you have that many representatives, it's definitely gonna like lean that way. Um, so yeah, we'll take a glance at this real quick from like the early breakdown. So I think it said 27, 28 duels, something around there. The format was pretty much what we kind of expected. Vanquish Soul, Lunalight was actually the second most represented in term, or I guess second best in terms of like representation into transfer into Top Cut. We've got Yummy. Sky Striker was a one individual, I think Roselle. Yeah, Roselle was able to bring it and make top four. And then we've got Malice, three individuals brought it, Crystron and White Forest. I think the rest of these were a couple more Vanquish Soul and a couple more Crystron. I don't remember all the specifics. So Logan, what are your thoughts on kind of at least like the beginning of stages before we break down Top Cut real quick?
Oh yeah, I think the deck breakdown for what people brought is pretty close to what we were thinking. I'm a little bit surprised by like the White Forest deck. I watched it on stream. He was 3-1. He was doing pretty well. But it just didn't translate over in the later rounds. Malice was another one that I thought could be more represented. Looks like there was 3 or 4 decks, I think, of that.
Mhm.
But yeah, the Yummy and the Vanquish Soul breakdown is pretty much what we thought. And I think this like Worlds format just kind of goes to show that the new decks are not like the new toy syndrome. Like they're actually just better than the old decks. And I think the biggest surprise obviously is the Sky Striker deck in top 4, and honestly probably could have made the finals if things just went like slightly differently.
Mhm.
Yeah, like I was surprised that Striker wasn't maining or playing the kaiju in the side, like the Striker searchable kaiju. Um, Especially if you look at the OCG sort of Road of the King breakdown over the past couple of months. Lunalight is actually a deck that was popping up in the major tournaments and winning those tournaments. So it's not like Lunalight isn't one of those decks that will, like stay in the metagame for long because it can get hard countered really easily. But it's one of those decks that, it can be a really good metagame pick, and if you time it right and people aren't prepared for it, like Liger Dancer, summoning on the field has a 100% success rate of just winning. And I'm pretty sure that's like what it was for this weekend. Like as soon as Liger Dancer touched down, just nobody won that game.
Mm.
Or your opponent didn't win that game.
I was a little bit surprised at how well Lunalight did because I think the like Liger Dancer touching down is game most of the time. Although I do think that Vanquish Soul has like some pretty decent play into Liger Dancer. They can set up the field spell and just like keep protecting their guys and burning with Borger. They just get like infinite card advantage to where they can just like not die and keep taking out their guys, and just like all they have to do is burn with Borger. What is it, like 6 times or something in the trap? And the matchup is like one Liger is not really that big of a problem for that deck. It's when they set up the full board with like double Liger SP or like Baguska Liger. But I guess like any deck is just losing to that anyways. But yeah, I'm not like the biggest fan of the Lunalight deck into Vanquish. Also the spell card, the Heavy Poly, just like auto loses to like the trap card and Borger. Like one
Mhm.
Borger burn or one trap card burn, and it doesn't
Yeah.
really accomplish enough. So I'm a little bit shocked at the at how well he did. And he also said he played no Yummy in Swiss,
Yeah.
which is even more interesting.
Yeah, because I'll say I played a World Celebration event. Obviously, very different quality of player. Um, but whenever I played against, I lost in the finals to Lunalight playing Yummy, and I just like got Lunalight. Liger Dancer dropped on me twice in Swiss and in Top Cut. And I was like, okay, well, I guess I lose. And he like told me afterwards, like, yeah, like I built my deck for Yummy, and I'm like, okay, I guess like that makes sense because the Yummy deck kind of struggles to out it.
Yep.
Obviously I have whatever 20 something hand traps in my deck, so I try to prevent it, but not something you can control. Like I think there's also things that you can do. Like if you are playing Yummy, you could choose to go second because if Heavy Poly doesn't resolve, then you have like a stop or two. Then I think the deck struggles a bit. Um, and obviously like that deck is very focused on the Yummy. Like, they play breakers, they play thrust for Heavy Poly. The deck struggles to burn, so I think that matchup is definitely a favorite for Lunalight. Obviously, hearing that he didn't play against any Vanquish or any Yummy and Swiss makes his run even more impressive. Like obviously, he was able to perform very well. Tom's very accomplished. This is now unfortunately his third loss in the finals in the past I don't know how many years. He lost
I,
in the finals of a German Nationals and the 250 of Lycius in London, where he beat me in Top Cut. So
one thing about his deck list that I thought was a little fascinating was so he built his deck for Yummy.
mm,
But if you look in his main deck, his real like really his only non-engine against Yummy, obviously there's like Thrust and the Heavy Polys is Book of Eclipse. And while I do think that card is like very strong against Yummy, there's so many counters to that card with the 3 Ash and 3 Purge, as well as just like if you're playing against a board breaker deck, you can just make the double Herald board that I'm not completely convinced that his matchup against Yummy going second game 1 is actually as good as maybe he thought it was, or as maybe as other people think. But I could be wrong. Maybe the Lunalight engine is as good enough in a Yummy.
yeah, that's not something that I tested too much. Like whenever my prep with the DTR, like towards the end, we're like, okay, like let's make sure we've prepped against all like the quote unquote real decks, like the most prominent decks. Like now let's like make sure we have Lunalight in our side. So we made sure to go over some of like the expectations for it, like how to interact with it. But yeah, I mean, like, again, congrats to him. Fantastic run. Like obviously he made a great call and it performed well. But and I think this is more. I think Tom is a fantastic player that did a lot of top tier plays compared to thinking that Lunalight would consistently do well if you run this tournament back whatever X amount of times. Like how well would Lunalight do? How often would it win? How often would it make it to the finals? I'm not sure.
Yeah, like some of his technical play was really good. There was one that really stood out to me. It was the game against Julian where he got shifted in game 2.
Yeah.
I think Julian was early against me, Fu against him, Purley against him, and then he nibbed him. And it was really cool because he had the heads up play to like eclipse his field
Yeah.
with the canines on the field, and he booked everything. So making sure that he would keep the Lunalight so that he would have bodies to fuse with. And I
Yeah.
thought that was a really nice heads up play.
Yeah, he played fantastic, and specifically in that game, and then game 3, obviously, like in game 1, obviously Julian just like got handed him twice. So I think that's something to discuss as well. Just like the format, obviously, even when you like look at the Justice Hunters decks, and you're like, hey, these decks are all pretty cool, kind of triangle format, whatever. Like, there's still like that level of blowout, right? Like obviously, like Lancia against the Malice deck. I think that happened to Ruben in the first round of Top Cut, or like he Lancia Yuna and ended up like having a non-game as a result of that. So I think there's obviously still things like a ban list I think would still be nice towards the TCG side, because I think you could compare the Worlds format and the TCG format kind of similarly. Like there's obviously still things that I would like to see hit. Obviously Paradise Smasher being not in the Worlds format was a big boost, but still a few more things that I'd like to see adjustments for. So this was Tom K's second place Moonlight deck. Congrats to him. I didn't watch his deck profile yet. I believe his testing partner Johannes, I think, played either card for card, something very similar. He got 10th. Unfortunately, wasn't able to make it off the tiebreaker, so unfortunate. But they obviously came up with a strong game plan and performed well for both of them. And then we'll look at the Christian list for Isaias. He'd been playing this over regionals over the past whatever month or so. Obviously performed very well. The one match I saw him play on stream around 2 or 3, I think he just drew very well. I think his deck building was strong. Pretty like just like limited engine. He doesn't play the Thivestern, like just a pretty slimmed down, efficient engine from Christian. Paramount and on engine 3 Fua, 3 Ash, 3 Valor, 3 Nib, and 3 Imperm. There's like maxing out on the ways to combine Nib plus X piece, 3 chaotic elements, 1 case. So just like keep that K9 consistency high. Extra deck, he plays Haggard Lizard Rose for something. Does anyone know what that would be for?
This is a good question. Let me see.
Clear board for something? I don't even know what though.
Is there?
It could be for like getting rid of like the extra monster zone card.
Yeah, I think.
Oh, that makes
I
sense.
think maybe that's what it is. Is instead of making SP in your combo, you can make the lizard and get it out of the EMZ for Chimera Tech Fleet, maybe.
Mhm. Like anytime, yeah.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you also have like a fair amount of non-gen you can draw into as well, or like at least 12. So yeah, if that's the case, like that's heads up. I mean, like we saw Julian citing Chimera Tech in his Vanquish full deck, so if that's something that he was,
in the OCG, Splash Mage is not banned, right? That card's legal.
I believe so.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna say if Splash Mage is banned, then it could be like a decent Cherries target for Malice, but
I don't. I mean, that may be another niche aspect of it between the Ghost Reaper, but
I don't think Splash Mage is banned. But
no, it was legal for Worlds for sure.
It's not bad.
So yeah, he also cites Phantasmate, Perulia, Drool, so just like the good anti-vanquishable cards, and then Reaper, which was a card that we saw him cite in his last regional toppling list, and I think we've seen pop up sporadically. We've had discussions over it. His targets were Yummy Snatchy in the main deck, and then Arthalion in the side. And then Called by Tactics, K9 Force Release. Extra deck seems kind of normal. Kinkiri, I guess, just to like get into like Infinity or something like that off of when you're light locked, like that.
I'm surprised he's not playing like the Dagda stuff and all that
Mm-hmm.
in this deck.
Yeah. I was just gonna say, I think the Princess card is actually for the mirror match. I think you can turn your K9 cards into like Sulfidar, because I think it takes it from your opponent's graveyard also.
Sorry, 1 level 5 in either graveyard. I mean that, yeah. So maybe like, I'm curious if it's like that versus like Dark, because I heard a Dark Charmer was something that you could also do in that spot. I guess a little better because like he doesn't play. Oh, he does play Zeus, so that could turn into Zeus as well technically. So has options. So yeah, congrats to him. Obviously, he played very well. Doesn't surprise me at all that he was able to perform as well as he did. And I think he was one of like 2 or 3 people that took this deck into the event. So congratulations to him. And then we'll game over. This is the sole OCG duelist that made top 8. Shane. Hopefully, I'm gonna have him on the channel in the near future. I've been messaging him on Twitter, so hopefully that pans out. He has pretty normal Vanquish list. He's got 2 Heavy Borger, full K9 package with Lantern, 1 case, mains the X-Force released, Ash, Fua, main decks, 1 Curry Kara, and Shifter. And then just main deck's also Triple Tactics Talent, along with Prosp and So Devil. Extra deck, 2 Ripper, the SP and the Saryuja, which I think is a really intelligent inclusion. Mains the C101 to make a big Zeus going second. And then side deck, he's got 2 Lancia, 3 Perulia, 2 Pank, 1 Dogoran, Harpies, Feather Duster, 1 Thrust, Tikaboo, Blackout Lapse, and 3 Power Filtered. I guess there's like an anti-Yummy card, which I think is pretty good inclusion, honestly. That's not something that I was super attuned to. And it works going first and second, so I think it's not a bad shout. So congrats to him. Any thoughts you'll have on the list real quick?
Not too much. It looks pretty standard. The inclusion of the Curry car and Dogoran was probably good for this event, just if you're anticipating Lunalight. In terms of his extra deck, nothing too crazy outside of the Saryuja, but we've kind of discussed, or at least I've discussed this on my channel. But I do think the Saryuja is like really solid with the K9 cards, especially when you know you're against like a board breaker deck.
Yeah.
In terms of the side, I like the power filter. Maybe he oversighted a little bit for Yummy. There's a lot of cards in here for Yummy, like almost like what is this, like 12 cards for Yummy. But yeah, it looks pretty solid.
Which is ironic because he lost to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I saw his Twitter afterwards, and he was pretty frustrated with how he played in that. So, unfortunately, like the nerves definitely can get to you after a certain point. So, unfortunate that it happened then, but obviously, fantastic run for him, and hope to see more from him in the future. Hopefully on the channel, and obviously back on the world stage.
Yeah, he also qualified for the world stage with this deck as well, so he's been playing it for a while.
Yeah. And then briefly go over Julian's list. The deck profile is up on his channel. If you want to listen to his discussion on it, he played the complete K9 package. He maxed out on 3Ks for K9. X-Force released 40 card deck. Main deck only cards were Ash, Fua, and 1 Phantasme. Prosp, and then extra deck he did 2 Nash Knight, including C101. Only 1 Ripper, 1 Werewolf. Echoshell Rocks, Typhon Zeus. Pretty normal. So no Saryusha in this, which I think is not something I would have done, but I mean obviously a choice that he made.
Double Nash Knight is interesting too.
Yeah, I think he mentioned like just wanting to like Nash Knight on turn 0, like also have it again on his turn, which I think not a bad inclusion. Cards obviously I think the primary extra deck monster that you want to make. He said he didn't like Valen too much. I think I understand it, like especially if you're playing the mirror match, like Xiaolong being able to put monsters back face up is a really big counter to it. I like it specifically in like the Draco Tail matchup, but as we saw in the breakdown, which we didn't even bring up, there was no Draco Tail and at all brought to the tournament, which I think is kind of crazy. Which is a matchup that I really like Valen. I think it shines in that matchup. So yeah, and then side deck Perulia, Phantaz, 1 Shifter, Drool, which we saw was just overperformed for him in Top Cut. Nib, Duster, he played a Chimera Tech, and then Tikaboo, which won him top 4 against Wilfredo, who was playing Yummy, Breaker Yummy deck, which I think was the consensus. I think I saw more Breaker decks just in general at the tournament, between Lunalight and a couple Yummy decks and all of that. So yeah, congrats to them. So yeah, Striker as additional deck that we don't have lists for yet. Wilfredo on Yummy in top 4, Roselle on Striker, Yuna on a Breaker Malice deck, and then the last one was Felipe Zapata on Yummy. So congrats to all of them in top 8. Obviously some of the American representatives like Charlie and Aditya didn't perform as well as we would have liked, and then Ruben also had a really rough tournament, but sometimes that's just how it goes. Like Ruben obviously won last year, and then this year he was bottom 3 after the Swiss. Like doesn't take anything away from him. He's a world champion and a fantastic duelist. Sometimes shit just happens. So no disrespect towards any of them, please. Like we've all had bad tournaments, and unfortunately, someone's got to end up towards the bottom. And Aditya and Ruben were those in this situation. So
to be fair, also like the world's tournament is also super volatile, right? Like you only have 7 rounds. So you can place that as like you're just going to like a big regional. Obviously, it's really hard to qualify for regional when you have like talented players coming in.
Yeah.
But it's basically like a really big international regional just to celebrate Yu-Gi-Oh.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think that's a good perspective.
One thing also is I believe they do make you play out like all your matches. So if you are somebody who ends up starting at 1-3 or 0-3 or something, how much effort and how well are you going to play after that type of start? How much do you really care when you're out of the tournament? They're forcing you to play. So
yeah, like you won't see me X5 at a YCS. Like I will just be spending my time. You'll see me playing a Winamat or cheering on my friends on Top Cut. Like it's just not something I'm gonna really spend my time doing. And in this situation, they're obviously forced to do it. So it kind of sucks. Like you're out of the tournament. Like they want you to be there for coverage, and like they obviously flew you out there. So it is your obligation to perform. But obviously it feels bad to like look at your final score after all of your hard work and be like, damn, I wish it was better. So
do we know how many people, if any, ended up getting the double match loss with the time rules?
I know at least one. I believe the Dino on White Forest had at least one double match loss.
Okay.
Otherwise, I don't know of any. Overall, it didn't seem like a big deal. So, for those that are unaware, 50-minute rounds at the end of the match, if the match has not concluded in its total, so 3 games or someone having won 2-0, both players have received a match loss. I didn't see any real situation where it came up. I know Dino's other match on stream, I think it was round 5 maybe. He was 3-1. He was losing to, I think it was Tom or Johannes, one of the Moonlight duelists. And he ended up conceding. I think he was dying almost in the immediate. Um, but he was conceding either way with, like, we'll say like 30 seconds to a minute left on the clock. Which I remember hearing something that Billy said on the stream about it, like he probably should scoop. I think it's kind of, I don't know, like commentators saying that to a duelist, I think is a little, I don't know, kind of strange. Obviously as the player, like you put in the thought beforehand of like, hey, I should, like, is a double loss here worthwhile versus a just like taking the natural loss. Natural loss is effectively always better if you're concerned with tiebreakers. Um, but yeah, you two give your thoughts while I kind of figure out what to say here.
Yeah, I only saw one. I didn't get a chance to watch much of the Swiss rounds, but I saw all of Top Cut. And
Mm,
in Top Cut, I only saw one match that looked like it had the chance to be a double loss, but obviously in Top Cut that's just not going to be a factor. But aside from that, it looked like all the players were playing very fast. Um, and one thing I noticed too is like even though there was like a lot of shuffling, and like the judge would have to come in and like shuffle their deck and then take up time. They were pretty good about not shuffling their deck until they were like actually done going in their deck, which saves a lot of time. I don't think people realize how much time that
yeah,
actually saves. So
100%.
I think if we do end up with these time rules, I don't think it'll be the end of the world. I think there will be some instances that'll be like annoying and like people complain about it, but that's already how it is now. People complain about getting burned in time or stalled in time or whatever. So
Mm.
I think overall it'll be a roughly the same. Not
Mhm.
not too big of a deal.
Or anything?
I think the only thing that I took away from this was the fact of Billy saying, to speed it up. I think it was from like good. It was like from a place of like goodwill, because
Yeah.
the issue I think a lot of players like forget is when there's the issue of like the double loss, it actually hurts your breakers a lot. So if you're ever in like a scenario where like you're going to force your opponent into like a double loss, that's worse than like if you just took a loss. So like from hearing the commentary and like what I took out of it, it was from my understanding, Billy was saying it from a place of like, oh, he needs to like scoop it up, otherwise it's like it's worse for him,
Hmm.
rather than anything else. So like that was my takeaway from this,
Yeah.
um, more than anything.
Yeah.
The
Yes, you go,
I
Logan.
said yeah. I just had one more thought. The only thing that's a little bit concerning for me in terms of like the double loss, and I don't think this will be like that big of an issue at like bigger events, but for this event, um, if you're a player that's like in the X3 bracket or X4 bracket and you have the opportunity to take that double loss instead of conceding, it could affect like your friends' tiebreakers, like positively or negatively to help them get into top cut, which could be a concern in a tournament that's so small and like X3s are making top cut, you could like manipulate it more.
Mm,
Which I'm not really a big fan of just like being able to manipulate Swiss standings like whatsoever.
yeah.
Uh, but for like a YCS, I don't think that'll really matter just because of the number of players.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's a very specific situation to this, which is a good observation for sure. Like, it's another example of how World is a very condensed, one-off,
Yeah,
27
it's a
man tournament.
locals.
Yeah,
It's a
it's a
OTS.
very big locals of high quality players and a format that no one will ever play again. So at the end of the day, it's something to remember. Is like obviously these people perform very well. Like we saw a very high level technical play across the board, but at the same time, like one poor round, a couple bad hands, like it just ends your day, which sucks considering the build up for a lot of these individuals, like playing all year in the points playoff and having a fantastic run in your WCQ. Like all those things are great, but at the same time, like there's not much you can do in a one off. Like like I don't win every locals. Like Jesse doesn't top every YCS. Like it's just sometimes shit happens, and in the world
I
stage,
haven't
it's
won.
really unfortunate to happen. Sorry, but yeah,
I haven't won- I was just kidding. I haven't won a locals in months.
Rahan, that doesn't
Feel like-
surprise me, unfortunately. Alrighty, so that'll be the wrap on Worlds. Congratulations to everyone. Julian Kahan, reigning world champion. Yeah, so congrats to him. He'll be back next year. We'll see what the format looks like, and we'll see who joins him from the West and the East. So we're going to move on into product discussion. We're going to go over the 2025 Mega Pack tin that's coming out, I think, Friday. And then we'll have a brief discussion. This is not like my area of expertise. I don't think anyone here is like really into game design or product design to any significant extent. But as people that play the game, and all three of us are competitive duelists, I think we're going to view it from that perspective of how does like the price of product, how does pricing, like if you are going to locals and winning pricing, and the pricing you win is worth cents on the dollar, or you don't even make your entry back, like that makes it really difficult to go and support your local LTS if money is a concern for you. So I think it's like how we're gonna view the discussion whenever we get there. So we're gonna start with the 2025 Megatin. It is a very large set, 450 cards. We've got like the normal stuff, tin, divider, the TCG promos, which we'll go over doing from a competitive standpoint here in a moment. But yeah, in terms of the sheer number of cards, 50 Starlights, 100 Prismatic Secrets, 150 Ultras, and 150 Commons. And then you get 3 Mega Packs with 13 cards per in each tin, where you get a Starlight Rare, a Prismatic Secret Rare, 3 Ultras, and 8 Commons. House of Champs on Twitter did a rough breakdown between current and like 2019's what am I looking for? Like break pull rate. So the 2019 Gold Sark Yu-Gi-Oh! Mega Tin pull rate was 1.5 each per case average with 0 short prints, and 2025 is an average of 0.36 of each secret per case, and that's with no promos. And then he's going on to discuss like why Konami may view this as a struggle. As a player that doesn't have too much skin in the game in terms of like what product like matters too much to me, like I'm generally just gonna buy singles and just like whatever pricing I get, I'm just gonna take advantage of. It isn't that's something that I think too much about. But I will say like the Rarity collection, whenever that was a thing, was definitely I think the most in the recent memory that I've seen people show up to locals and buying product. Like I think that set is overperformed in terms of expectation. So Logan, what are your thoughts on kind of just like the Mega Tin as a whole?
Yeah, I think you're right about the Rarity collection kind of being a home run, and I hope they revisit that. In terms of the actual tins, I don't see why the tin couldn't be a good product. I do think that a lot of the stuff that they choose to do in it is like really questionable, especially with like the Rarity selection on cards. Like several dozen of the cards that got reprinted as common like already had a common printing, and a lot of the cards that got reprinted as ultra already had an ultra. I don't really understand why they can't swap those around and like at least make it to where if you're opening a pack and you don't pull anything of value, at least you pull like some rarity upgrades or new rarities of cards. And there's also just like a lot of filler in this pack that really does not need to be here. But the actual reprint, the cards that they chose to reprint, I think were like pretty good picks. It's just there's too many cards in the set that you're just not going to pull them that often. And I don't really think it's going to affect the prices of the like it's not really going to bring down the price of Fualos or Perulia a significant amount.
Ryan, do you have any thoughts?
I think the issue is like Logan said. I don't like it. They just like jammed it with so much product that you, as a player, like you can't actually get what you're trying to get. But then they're also just like going in and like reprinting like all of these different cards that otherwise actually had value and people wanted to go buy, right? For example, prime example is I'll show you. Here.
I got show and tell for our audio listeners. I'll give you the wrong one. So this is
Okay.
he is showing up a prize card Duel Links Dragon.
Right, so this is a Duel Links Dragon. And so one of the discussions that I've had with people is I feel like there's no reason for you to ever reprint a prize card like this as a Starlight. And they're continuing to like just continue printing like prize cards as super rares and ultras, but then why are you reprinting it as a higher rarity? Like as a person who's holding a prize card and perhaps should have sold it earlier, I just feel like there's no actual reason to it, and you're just like diminishing the value for competitors to actually like go in and get good cards, right? Sure, like they've increased, and okay, so the other thing they've also done is like they've increased the number of prize cards they're giving out this season, right? For better or for worse. They're now giving a prize card for fourth, right? So now there's more prize cards of like whatever prize card it is like in season.
Mhm.
But now they're also like just dropping the value of that. The value of that is also kind of just like whatever because the actual value for topping is now in like the stamped cards. But like I just feel like Konami sometimes just doesn't know like what they want to do, and they feel like they're desperate at times. Like the reprinting of the prize cards, the reprinting of QCR SP, QCR Imperm, so as Starlights is now hurting like other products. And as someone who's has owned like QCR Imperm, I'm like incentivized to like ever go after like high rarity cards ever again because that's like for me, like I always view like Yu-Gi cards as an asset rather than something that generates money. Like I want to be able to play with my cards, but then when I'm done with it, it's really nice to like always see that I can sell my cards and get my like initial investment back or some sort of like percentage of it, right? Whether it be like 90%, 80%, something like that. But like when they're reprinting cards with higher rarities after exclusively also printing those cards as like a premium rarity like UCR, it's like okay, well, why would I, as a collector or like someone who dabbles in like high rarity cards, ever go after those cards ever again? Um, so like that was my perception of it. And then looking at some of the pre-sales that Gamer's Choice and Tier Zero have like done, is when you're looking at it from like a player perspective, I think that Logan touched upon was you wanted to make it accessible to like the common audience or like the commoners. Like I don't have a place at Aprilia, right, for my Dracotil deck, so I'm just like managing with whatever. So I was waiting for the Megaton reprint. But if you look at pre-sales for the cards, the Prismatic Secret Rare slot is, first of all, you only get one in each pack. So I think you get what, 3 packs in a tin? So you get
Yeah.
what, three Prismatic Secret Rares in a tin? And you can't like, and that pool is just so inflated with like random cards that I'm not gonna get that Aprilia. Even if you buy a case, you're not getting that Aprilia. Or you're definitely not getting a place out of that Aprilia.
Yeah.
So I just feel like Konami is kind of just not really going after like what they're trying to do with the Megaton. I remember like when I joined Yu-Gi-Oh! Back in 2017, this was like at the end of the Zodiac format. Zodiac cards are really cool, but they were super expensive for me. And I went to YCS Toronto, which was my first ever event in 2017, and it's paid side events. But I got 2 tins, and I pulled Trident and Broadbow, and it was really cool to be able to like pull those cards and play them for like 2 weeks before they got banned. But like as someone who wasn't able to afford like secret rares like that were that pricey early on, being able to like get high rarity cards or like chase cards later on easier, I feel like that was the entire point of the Megatons. And now the entire point of the Megatons just seems like they don't really know what they're doing anymore. That was a bit of a ramble.
Yeah,
No,
I think one really big miss on these Megatons too is the lack of like a promo or like something that's like really worthwhile. I believe it comes with like deck dividers, but I haven't really seen a lot of hype with those. And I know Konami has the ability to do it because their most recent Justice Hunter product actually had like really high quality Justice Hunter field
mhm.
centers. And that was like one of the first sets in a while that I actually like went to like Target and like bought a couple of them just because I wanted the field centers, and it felt like it was worth it even when I didn't open anything out of my packs. And I don't know why they can't have something like that in every one of these types of sets going forward, or have like a coin, an alt art, something of that sort.
Yeah, I think those are all really good insights. Those are something that I really consider. Like, I'm a minority duelist. Like, I haven't really considered it. But like when I
Yeah.
see my friends and like obviously like Rohan or like I know collectors and they're just like, oh hey, I bought these QCR cards and they're now just like getting reprinted as Starlights as well. Like, as someone that doesn't even dabble in high rarity, when I see like I don't even know the difference like QCR Starlight, like what's worth more, why are they worth as much as they are? Like now they're just like okay, I guess like the best example is when you look at a set like Justice Hunters or whatever the set that had Ryziel and Malice in it. When you see the min rarity of the ultras, the collectors, and then the Starlight, when the ultras, like let's say for the Ryziel, were all like at $20 a piece for a while, the CRs were only like 30, like because there was also the QCR, which was we'll say like 100. So like when you have so many different printings of rarities, in those sets, it actually like devalues the lower and the middle just because they're so similar in terms of like aesthetic value, availability, whatever. Because people that actually value like the high rarity are always going to go for like the highest. Um, But I'm not sure the discussion between QCR and Starlight, whatever, is like viewed as more. But if like let's say they're comparable, then like they're just gonna drag both of them down because now there's access to both. So I think it's the miss on Konami's part. Like this set is also generally not given out for price support at locals, which I think like obviously whatever worth more money, I understand. But like this is a set that like would I think bring people to locals to like try and like buy and purchase and play for if they had like Megaton tourneys or whatever. But with this dispersed of a card pool, I think it's really difficult for you to be like Rahan said, like I need these Perulias or this set of purges that are kind of like the cards they've been promoting, like, oh hey, we're finally reprinting these cards. And they're just like not available to people. Which I think the mega or the rarity packs they did really well. Like Flawless reprint obviously was a little sooner than some may have expected, but like that card being reprinted in the rarity collection, I think like sold out set 4. Like I can't find that anywhere anymore. Just like that one
The
single
rarity
card.
Sorry, I was
Very
gonna
good.
say the Rarity collection too. It felt like even when you got a bad pack, at least every card in your pack was like playable,
Mhm.
and you
Yes.
could just have like extra copies of staples or like give it to a friend that
Yeah.
needs cards. And a lot of those cards too. Eventually, like when they came out, they were like $1-2 cards, and now they're $3 to $5 staples.
Yeah.
Like the imperms and stuff, those went up a lot
Yeah, they'll maintain
over
value
and
really well.
ashes and stuff like that. Yeah, it,
I
it
think
it felt it felt good to open the product even if you were losing money on it.
I agree. I think the other thing that sort of should be talked about is I really like the sort of rarity breakdown that they've done with like these deck build packs. One of the biggest discussions happening right now in Yu-Gi-Oh is like how cheap Yu-Gi-Oh is in terms of like the metagame relative to like previous formats, where you could play Yummy for like $100, you could play Dragotero for like 150, things like that. And I think that has only really been possible because of the rarity distribution within the deck build packs. Because you're giving exclusive like premium high rarity cards, whether it be CRs or Starlights, for each of the archetype cards, but then you're also giving like low rarity options. So essentially that's just like the OCG model, right?
Yeah.
Where you can give the whales what they want, but you can also give like the average min rarity Aaron McInnes, right? Like what he wants, right?
Yeah,
And he
true.
just wants the active cards,
Yeah,
right? He doesn't
I just
care.
want to play the deck. Yeah.
Exactly. He just wants to play the deck. And I think that's been really good to see. And I think that's also encouraged a lot of people to actually buy product because they feel like, okay, we can get the cards that we want. And if we pull a high rarity card, we can just like yeet that over and actually get some value out of the box. And it's been a win-win. But like I think the issue starts to become when Konami starts like reprinting those cards. Like for example, if Konami releases like QCR 5 mana, and in these megatins or like rarity collection like 5, they were reprinting Starlight 5 mana. That just feels like as a consumer like a slap to the face because we bought this product assuming that this is going to be the highest rarity, right? Or this is like the premium rarity.
Yeah.
And now you're saying that this is not the highest rarity anymore, and now you're reprinting something else. So I think it's just like one of those things where there is an issue with communication. Like they communicated really well when they were initially reprinting QCRs in the Rarity collection, saying that anything that got a QCR in the core sets wasn't going to get a QCR in Rarity collection, right? And people were not mad about that.
Yeah.
Like for example, Fuolos, like Fuolos reprint came, but people that bought QCR Fuoloses, they were unaffected, right? So like now everyone else can get their Fuoloses, but the whales that got their QCR Fuoloses are also unaffected, and everyone's happy.
Yeah.
So I think that's like where the difference is over here.
Yeah. I think it's a really good acknowledgement. So yeah, I think real quick we'll go from like the competitive standpoint. I think it's all like really effective like real life situations of it. But like in terms of just like the value of product as well, the Megaton we'll see how it pans out. But like we'll look at like the past couple of sets like Justice Hunters and Duel, which was like the most recent core set. The value of those sets diminished very very quickly, just due to I think how they're spacing the products out. Like when a set like Justice Hunters has so many good decks in it that the set's gonna get bought out, and if especially if it's not under what's the word like if there's enough product for everyone or it's not sold out, then the cards are just gonna like diminish in value because there's enough for everyone and everyone's like open infinite because they want their expensive cards, so there's a lot of ultras, whatever. And in Duad there was only like a few cards that like really held value in the set, like Holy Sue. What were the other secrets in that set? There weren't even that many that were valuable, right?
Gold Leo,
Gold Leo was a good one. There was one more that I'm forgetting. But
Alisu.
oh yeah, Holisu and I don't remember. But yeah, like that set really quickly dropped to like $35-$40 a box on TCG Player, which I think is just really concerning for longevity. Like I've heard people like John Moore and Jeff Jones talk about this, that like when the set like within, I think it was within like a week of its release, was just like under retail. That's like really concerning for the longevity of like your product and your game. Because as someone who, I enjoy going to locals, like it's not something that I like go out of my way to do, but I want to go see my friends. I want to go play some Yu-Gi-Oh. But if I'm going there and paying $10 for entry for 2 OTS packs, and I win full set 12 packs and for making top four, and I'm losing money on my entry packs because all the ultras are worth like $1, and maybe the best secret that I pull is $3. I think that's like a negative for the consumer base, because you're just like kind of throwing money down the drain. Obviously, it's not our goal to like profit and like make a living off of this, but at the same time, like being able to fund your hobby because of your performance, I think is like a reasonable expectation. So I think that is something that Konami needs to be aware of, and hopefully we'll try to be aware of, like just splitting up products. So like a set like Duet and Justice Hunters, maybe like they split like the decks between the two. So Duet is carried up by more Canine cards, and Justice Hunters has like a little bit less in terms of overall quality. Just like have a little bit more balance in terms of equity of card over the course of different packs. I'm not sure if that's something either of you have experienced or
Well,
thoughts on.
one small, or like actually like one major issue with like some of the core sets is the selection that they pick on the Starlight Rares has been like very poor recently.
Yeah.
They're picking just like a lot of bad cards, and they're sticking to this format where they're only making the ultras and secrets into Starlights, which I think like misses out on a lot of opportunities, because I don't really see why like a card like the Starham or Onari or Liger Dancer couldn't be a Starlight, and I think it would just like add a lot of value to the sets going forward if they expanded out into the commons and supers and like are willing to make them
Yeah.
rarity upgrades.
Like Mitsurugi Prayers, for example, still hasn't gotten a super reprint. Like, if that card was a QCR, like I think that would like have carried the set even more so than the original.
Yeah, and they can also just get like reduce the number of Starlights and make them like maybe even like a little bit harder to pull. To
Mhm.
But like as long as the cards are all like playable, I think it would be a lot better for the set breakdown.
Agreed.
Yeah, like when Starlights were first introduced, like they actually felt like a premium, like collectible thing. Like people were getting their Appaloosas graded, their IPs graded, and it was super hard to actually get an actual Starlight. Like Starlight Appaloosa was well in the I think it was like 4 digits. It was like
Yeah,
almost
it was over
1100.
1,500 at one point, if not more.
Yeah, it was 1600, and like as like someone who doesn't really care for like that premium level of rarity, I was fine with it. But I also let other people open multiple packs. Like the whales would go in and they would order by the cases. They would pack like multiple cases and packs and booster boxes, and that actually felt like a premium rarity. But now when they're stuffing something like a Megatin with Starlight after Starlight, I just feel like the rarity has just lost its allure in a way.
Yeah. I think I'm kind of cool with whatever direction they go, but I think they need to commit one way or the other. Like, I think having a Starlight 1.5k value card in a main set may be a little too expensive, and I'm kind of cool if they make it a little more accessible. Like, if they'd say that there's the current level of Starlight in core sets where it's like one per case or whatever, something like that. But like, it needs to kind of stick to that lane, and then just like printing a Starlight per pack of Megatin, I think just kind of like diminishes the value, like you said. Um, so I think I enjoy the levels of rarity because it makes someone like me who just wants to play the game more accessible, because there's a lot of different cards that are now way cheaper than they would have been. But at the same time, like I think for the longevity of the game, they need to be a little bit more mindful of how you print cards, and like make sure your game has value over the long term. That's something that I think they haven't done the best at over the past little bit. Collectors are obviously like struggling to probably want to keep buying products because there's no guarantee their cards are going to maintain value. And obviously someone like Rahan who has a prize card, like he just like lost a lot of money off of that reprint. QCR Emperor, like as an example, whatever. So
Oh, I have two of these. It's not even just one.
oh,
I have two of these.
all right, well, it's
Okay,
even worse
no
for you.
more flexing, no more flexing.
Yeah, nice job, kiddo. You got this nice
I
Megaton
will
reprint.
say the Konami did do one thing recently that was like pretty good for the collectors, and that was the Blue Eyes in the OTS pack. I think that was
Yeah.
like a pretty big buff to locals, because the previous OTS packs have just been like so awful in terms of value. So
Yeah.
it's not that Konami doesn't know how to do it; it's just that they're not doing it all the time. So hopefully
Yeah.
going forward that'll change.
Yeah, I mean,
I
like,
think too
you're
is also the fact like that's just nostalgia, right? Like, how often can you actually go? Like, you're running out of cards that you can sort of point in the higher rarity, right? Because, like, sure, the Blue Eyes will do that. If they do a Dark Magician Girl OTS like Ulti, that'll do
Yeah.
it. If they do a
Exodia,
Dark Magician,
whatever.
right? Dark Magician, like, that'll do it. But if they go ahead and they do, like, an Element Hero Neos, is that gonna do it? It's not. If they do Decode Talker, Perform Pal, like, Odd Eyes Pendulum Dragon, like, some of these, like, main deck, like, and protagonist cards, like, that's not gonna do it. Recently, if you look at the Worlds packs that they've been giving out, the Secret Rare stamped Exodia is going for a lot of money. Partly because it's a really cool, like, brushed print art type of thing.
Mhm.
It has World Stamp on it, but it's also just Exodia.
Has a different
So
border on it too.
yeah, so like
It's also a
the
very low
card
pull
art,
rate.
yeah, and that's very, very, very hard to pull. So I think the issue is how often can you just like go back and in the good old reliable pool and just pick one of those cards to like reprint again, like the Nike promo they did with Red Eyes Black Dragon,
Oh, sick.
right? So I think the issue has now become you have all like these icons within the game, and you can only reprint them so many times. And anytime Konami tries to do like another card, they just fail miserably.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with that, but I also do think that there's a lot of untapped potential there, especially with like the competitive card pool. Like an Ultimate Rare Ash Blossom would like for sure be a huge hit in an OTS pack. As well as just like other like Ultimate Rare Fuwalos, like that card would be worth a ton of money.
Mhm.
I think there's a lot of potential there, but I think they're for whatever reason somewhat afraid to put like staples in OTS packs as ultis. I'm not
Yeah.
exactly sure why they've done it with like Fenrir and Thrust, but they just haven't like hit all
They've
the
done it
hand
with
traps yet.
droplets as well. Droplets,
Yeah,
imperm,
droplets
like
was
those
a good
cards
one.
do a
Nib
lot
like
of damage.
they did do a lot of them, but they haven't recently. They've been doing more like archetypal cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, like during COVID, I remember the OTS pack droplets and imperms were going for ridiculous amounts of money, like
Yeah.
300 Canadian or something like that.
Yeah. All right. I think to close the topic out, I'll just say, I think like with the rarity collection availability of those cards too, like if you have Fuwalos in the rarity collection, it comes in 4 or 5 rarities. Having whatever the PUR and then also like the OTS ulti, to me that just seems like a bit much from someone that like doesn't look at that market. Um, so like maybe if they're like, okay, we're gonna like if you always have cards that come out of rarity collection, then putting it in OTS as well, it just seems like we're diminishing the value of all of the different rarities. So I think they need to
Mhm.
like do a little bit better job, maybe like distinguishing what comes in OTS packs versus what comes in rarity collection. So yeah, I think we'll just close that topic there. I think that was actually
Okay.
a lot longer and better than I wanted. So yeah, real quickly we'll go over some of the TCG promos that are coming out in Megaton. First of all, we've got Queen of the Blazing Domain, level 9 Pyro Dark. Those cards are searchable off of Chaotic Elements, if I remember correctly.
Yep.
3,000 attack, 2,500 defense. Its text reads, cannot be destroyed by card effect. If this card is in your hand, you can target the 2 cards you control, including a spell and trap, destroy them, and if you do, special summon this card. If you destroyed 1 card, return this card to your hand during the end phase of this turn, or if you destroy 2, this card gains this effect instead. Any monster sent from the field to your opponent's graveyard is banished instead. And then you can only use the effect of Queen of the Blazing Domain once per turn. So Pyro Dark, accessible off Chaotic Elements, Macrocosmos, or like effectively. Do you see any competitive viability for this, either of you?
Not a whole lot. I think like maybe there's a world where like it's a side deck card in decks that play chaotic elements. I believe the macro effect is one sided. Let me read
Yeah,
it.
so
Mhm.
any monster
6%.
from the
Yeah, one.
field, it's your opponent's graveyard is banished.
Yeah, so like maybe like a Crystron deck could like side this because they have like the face up, the inclusion face up, and their Crystrons get effects from like getting destroyed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't think it. I don't really see why this card is like any better than like DDG or something. I guess maybe because it's searchable, but it's somewhat difficult to summon.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think Chaotic Elements making cards like a searchable, another card like Vados, like maybe if we see like the pure K9 deck that gets some support in Dude, which we'll do a review over next week. Um, we'll see if like maybe there's like a pure K9 deck that sides these types of cards because of Chaotic Elements in their deck, and they can maybe take advantage of something like that. Currently it reads like maybe a little bit excess. Like there aren't too many decks that just like want to like have their stuff pop. Like there's a deck like Metal Foes that's like just running around. I think Christian is probably like the best application of this in the current metagame. So we'll see if that ends up becoming a side deck card if something like that becomes the case. But Rahan, any thoughts before we trade the next one?
Yes, I've solved it. They're putting Dragonic Diagram to 3 on the ban list, and then they're gonna put this card in the tins, and then you can just pop your spells and traps with this card, and you put on a macro Cosmos Floodgate, and then they're just gonna give you Drakewood support in the Dude set, and there we go. I've solved it.
I just learned Diagram was not at 3.
It's at 1 still, right?
I know.
I
They're
have
gonna
no
put it to
idea.
3.
As a big Metal Proposed Draco enthusiast, I am down for this timeline. I'll just put Canine cards in my deck, and is there level 5 Metal Foe? No,
Ignis.
right? There is?
Well, there's the Draco is Ignis, right?
That's a level 4.
Oh, sorry, are you talking about Metal Foes or True Draco?
Yeah, I'm talking about Metal Foe Draco, like Metal Foe Draco, like Draco Slayer. Not the Pendulum deck, the fucking True King, whatever it's called.
Ignis,
I'm not a Pendulum enthusiast, not at all. Metal Foes.
The Ignis True Heat guy is level 5.
Oh yeah, the level 5 tribute summon guy, right?
Yeah.
Perfect. I can summon that off of Jokul. All right, we are cooking, boys. Alrighty. So yeah, so I think Krishan is like the most viable application of this in the current game. We'll see if it ends up playing out. If Vanquishable Canine is the most played deck, probably not super relevant. But if you you're just playing Krishan, you think you have a poor Canine matchup, or not Canine, sorry, Dracotail matchup. Krishan poor Dracotail matchup. This is a card that you could maybe side off Chaotic Elements and.
It's also only sent from the field, so I don't actually know how good this card is.
So maybe decent against like Yummy if like they're not playing breakers.
Maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it seems very specific and not
kind of
very
niche,
good.
but being searchable I think is always relevant. Like we've seen cards that are probably as bad to see played just because they're accessible.
This card is really cool.
So yeah, Logan's been hyping this one up. So Earth Monster Zombie XYZ levels rank 6, 1100, 2800 stat line. 2 level 6 monsters. Once per turn, you can also XYZ Dragon Gate using 1 rank 3 or lower XYZ you control by transferring its material, and then you also transfer. Cannot be used as XYZ as material for an XYZ summon the turn it was XYZ summoned. Once per turn, you can activate this effect. For the rest of this turn, this card can attack all monsters your opponent controls once each. Also, detach a number of materials from this card, and if you do, it gains 1000 attack for each card type, monster, spell, or trap detached. And if it does, any monsters your opponent controls loses that much attack. So, what are the applications that you see behind this, Logan?
So I don't think there's like any like combo or like any specific deck where I think this card is like especially good in, but I do think it's just a very generically solid card that any deck playing rank 3 or lower XYZ monsters can utilize. Something that comes to mind is like maybe the Goblin Biker deck.
Yeah.
I know people were talking about like Materiactor. People were talking about the Psychic decks. Like it's a lot of like tier 3 rogue strategy type decks, but I think it's a card that's going to pop up a lot in those types of decks. And there's going to be a lot of game states where like your Exceed gets like impermed or something, and your opponent summons this on top of it and like wipes your board, and you just don't see it coming. It's like in a way, it's just like a mini Typhon, and Typhon is like really solid right now. So I think this will be like a very good utility card in those types of decks. In the meta decks right now, I don't think this will see any play, but it'll definitely be a card that gets summoned a lot.
Yeah. And then like I'm just thinking of like random things. Like if you go rank 3 into this, like you detach, you go Dragon's Gate, you can then go into Gaia, which would then make a format Zeus. I'm not sure how relevant that is, but
I think it can't be. Yeah, you can't XYZ on top of it. This card would be ridiculous.
I say yeah, you should get to make a format Zeus for fun. All right, never mind. Thanks for checking on that. Because yeah, I guess I don't know what the XYZ Armor Force cards work, but like that may have been probably why they put that restriction on this. I guess that makes sense. All right, so yeah, you can obviously cheat after just reading a card once. So please double check all your cards. Anything on this round before we check out the last one?
I don't think so. I think it's like one of those cards, like you said earlier, Typhon, where it'll just come up in game stage rather than like a specific deck. But I don't think we have any decks that are viable right now that are ranked 3 or lower specific. The only one in recent memory that comes to mind is like Literalist Tri-Brigade.
Phantom Knight was after that, I think.
As well. I think Phantom Knight was like I think it was around the same time.
Actually, I played it in that format. Like I think after the bear statue guy, I think it was around that time.
Yeah.
Alrighty, last one is. Sorry, you're good.
I was just gonna say I saw some talk about it in like Memento Goblin Fiendsmith, but
that makes sense. Alright, last one, normal spell called Bot Herder. Target one monster your opponent controls that is a face-up monster you own or a face-down defense position monster. Wait, there's a face-up you. What?
This card
Your
is very
opponent controls
strange.
that is a face-up monster you own, so they have to have taken your monster.
Mm-hmm.
Or a
Or you
face-down
give
defense
them one.
position monster. If that monster is no longer on the field, or as a what the I'm so sorry. Target one monster your opponent controls that is a face-up monster you own, or a face-down defense position monster. If that monster is no longer on the field, or is a monster you own, if face-down, reveal it briefly to check. Apply these effects in sequence. Inflict 200 damage to your opponent. Take control of all monsters your opponent controls except that monster.
It's the weirdest
Mimigool.
worded.
This is like the biggest Mimigool boost of all time. Like I don't know.
Yeah. what the maybe I'm misunderstanding. What does it mean when it says if that monster is no longer on the field? Or face down defense monster.
Dude, this is the weirdest worded card I've ever seen. What the hell?
That is a face up monster you own, or a face down defense position. If that monster is no longer on the field.
That
What,
can't be a
what would be
translation error
the
because
scenario
this
where
is a
that
TCG card.
happens?
What the hell?
Yeah, this is the actual text on the card.
It is a translation error. It's a translation error from like the brain to like the card.
Dude, I had like the biggest brain fart of my life. I didn't know what the hell is happening.
Maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I do not understand that line of text. If that monster is no longer on the
field, so
that is a face up monster you own, or a face down.
I'm so confused.
Is it like if you activate this card and they like change something that tributes it off the field, like it still resolves? Is that why that line of text is there?
I guess.
Yeah.
like
if they like enemy controller
tribute, I guess. Like I don't know what the hell's going on.
And like, I'd have to like go on like YGO and Megan like activate this card like 4 or 5 times to see how it works.
Yeah, it's so strange.
What's the application being like a face down defense position monster? Because like you can't resolve it if it's just a face down defense position monster, right?
You can if it's Mimigool. Yeah, Mimigool.
I think it's
face down defense.
This looks like exclusively a Mimigool support card. I can't like tell based on the pictures. But, like,
isn't this card also like a tech against the new deck that's coming out, that new Pendulum deck that has like set monsters?
I haven't read it at all, so I don't. That is going to be our homework.
So, from what I understand, like, okay, so how is it used against like a set monster that is your opponent's? Because the rest of that line doesn't apply because that monster is still on the field.
200. Like if your opponent sets a monster and you activate this, I'm pretty sure all this card does is inflict 200 damage. You get a look at it. How many Yu-Gi-Oh players does it take to read a card?
Dude, this is crazy. I don't understand. I'm gonna assume this card is not very good. Maybe played in Mimigool at some point because they just give their opponents a lot of cards.
I think the best line in this entire text is reveal it briefly to check. Like you have to reveal like that face down card.
You can't tell based on like the sleeves of the card, I guess, or like.
Dude, if my opponent activates this on me, I'm just flashing them the card instantly. They get like a half a second to look at it.
I'm just calling a judge. I'm just gonna be like, bro, how do I resolve this card? Like I don't. So
I guess like you compare this with like a kaiju, and like you can kaiju their guy, activate this, and then you like change all their monsters except the kaiju.
That sounds hilarious. Like I feel like this card doesn't suck, but I can't understand why.
Like surely you play this in Mimigool, right?
100%. Like that's the first thing I thought of when I read this.
But it's also like only a go second card, and like you have to use it after you're already playing, and I guess that one line of text is literally just to get around targeting protection, or like target like cards that get it off the field. Like
I think you always can apply both effects. Take control of all monsters your opponent controls except that monster.
If it's a monster you own, that's the only way you get to apply the second effect.
I don't think so. I think it just always accept that monster.
It says if that monster is no longer on the field or is a
monster you own. So as long as they have a monster you own, you apply both effects. It's not like you have to have met both conditions.
If that monster is no longer on the I think if you activate this on their set monster and they don't like tribute it off, I don't think you get to take control.
No, I agree. Yeah, so if that monster, so like the monster you target, if it either leaves the field or is a monster you own, then you resolve the effects. That is the only conditions for this card, to my knowledge.
So if you activate this and it's not like it doesn't mean the fact that like that monster leaves the field and it's not a monster you own, does this card just like resolve without effect?
I think so. All right, I'm gonna find someone
We
that's
might
way
need the
smarter than me.
YouTube comments to tell us how this
Yeah, all
card
right,
works.
YouTube comments. I don't ask for anything YouTube comments, so please let me know how this card works because the three of us are truly clueless. So yeah, I guess on that note, where we don't know how to read Yu-Gi-Oh cards, we're gonna end it. Shout out to the three competitive duelists that do on the bubble. Logan, Rahan, great time as always. I think it was a really productive discussion, all things considered. Next week, I will hopefully be in contact with Shay either to be on the podcast or I'll have a separate video with him. And we're gonna do a dude review with everyone. We're gonna rate the product. Hopefully, we'll start getting some previews by then. See if there's any TCG exclusive stuff. And if there's a ban list, we'll obviously discuss that as well, which is I think what everyone's kind of waiting for at this point. So.
I feel like we're like in a we're like in a really weird like in between format where people were just like looking for worlds as like the spectacle it is, but I feel like right now people are just like hoping for a ban list to move on with everything.
Yeah, ban list. We've got Duke coming up towards the end of September, and there's no YCSs between now and then, right? Like the next one's Pittsburgh in early October.
Anaheim.
Anaheim in early October.
Anaheim. Okay, Anaheim's first and Pittsburgh after. Okay, so we'll see how that plays out. I think there's some Latin American events, but in terms of like just North American where we're all located, that's kind of the most relevant for us. So. Again, thanks as always, boys. Remember, like, comment, subscribe, obviously. Let us know how bot Hoarder works, because I truly don't know what the hell's going on with that card. And yeah, if you have any comments on product discussions, please feel free to let us know, and I'll be in the comments learning and responding. Yeah, thanks again, and I'll see you next one.